What's up guys, I'm Amanda, the Botanical Brunette, and welcome to my channel. I have a really fun video for you guys today. I have been asked several times to do a video on how to style my plants. But honestly, I don't really know how to film it. My styling for things I just kind of throw stuff willy-nilly and then I kind of just keep moving it around like a crazy person until I like the way it looks. But this might be a good little segue into that. Maybe I'll get some ideas while I'm doing this video. So I have around 20 air plants that we're gonna style today. This is also going to be a little segue into my June plant haul. So I wound up getting a couple air plants and long story short, wound up shouting out the company that sent me the air plants because they were just amazing quality. And they wound up gifting me a bunch more air plants. So I have so many air plants to style today. So I figured this would be a good video to kind of start out with my styling videos and just kind of let you know the method to my madness. So before we get into styling the air plants, I'm gonna go into some tips on how to style and basically a little mini air plant care video. I'm gonna be doing a more in-depth air plant care video. I figured I would start with the styling first just because I've been waiting to style these air plants. I got them a couple days ago and they've just kind of been sitting around until I did this video. So I am ready to style them, but I wanted to give you guys some tips and tricks on basically what to do when you're styling your air plants and also things to consider when you're placing your air plants to display. Let's talk about things to consider. When you're styling your air plants, you'll want to make sure that you put your air plants in a bright location. Now, I sell in my Etsy shop, I have suncatcher air plant hangers that are basically meant to hang in the sunlight. I've tested over 5 different types of air plants in these sun catchers that sit in a southeast facing window, even a northeast facing window, and they typically do pretty well in there. I haven't noticed a lot of brown tips. That's usually an indication that it's thirsty. I do feel like I need to water them a little bit more often. I try to water them at least once a week, every 5 to 7 days. So I do need to kind of water those a little bit more than some of the air plants that kind of sit in just a medium bright location, which is totally fine. I honestly water them all at the same time. You can't really overwater an air plant. I mean, you can in a sense, but I'll get to that in a minute. And lighting also takes me into placement. So you'll want to make sure, because you need to water your air plants around once a week, you'll want to make sure that you put them in a spot that is easy to remove. So you don't want to make sure that you have it tangled in some macrame plant hanger or it's too high that you have to get a step ladder up to get it every time. You want to make sure that it's in a spot that you can just kind of grab and go, because these do need to be taken out of their environment and put into a container, a sink, or whatever to soak for a few minutes every week. So just making sure that you keep it in an area that is going to be easy for you to kind of just grab them. Another thing to be aware of, I have seen this here and there, is do keep in mind that if you make an air plant hanger, like a DIY air plant hanger, make sure that you don't use copper. Copper is actually toxic to air plants, so just make sure that if you use any material into making an air plant hanger, just making sure that you don't use copper. For my air plant hangers, I use brass. It is pure, untreated brass. There's no chemicals that have been treated on it or anything like that. Just keep that in mind when you're doing that. Just make sure that you don't use copper in your materials. Also, when it comes to placement, you want to make sure that you put it in a spot that is not going to be super drafty. It can be a little drafty, a little breezy, you can put it near a fan or whatever, but make sure that it's not in a window that's gonna get super cold in the fall and winter. So if you have your air plant hanging in a window, just make sure that it's not gonna be super cold and drafty, because they're not gonna love that. Also, at the same time, make sure that it's not near a heater or any place that's gonna get super hot. So some tips for when you're placing your air plants in their new home is you'll want to make sure that you put your air plants, after you water your air plants, you'll want to make sure that you put your air plants upside down for at least 12 hours to dry. Now I do this, I try to water my air plants, so let's say I do it in the afternoon. I'll give my air plants a good soak, and then I will kind of flip them upside down. So like they usually kind of live like this, and I'll flip them upside down on a paper towel or a towel or any drying, you can put it on a drying rack, whatever you want to do. But these have to sit kind of upside down so they can dry for a few hours. I would try, like, I mean, honestly, like if I water these air plants like in the afternoon, I won't put them back until the next morning. I really want to make sure that they don't have any water that kind of sits inside any of these crevices, because that can cause rotting, and that is the biggest culprit of air plant death. That's what I'm saying about overwatering your air plants. You can't really, like, I mean, you can overwater your air plants if you do it excessively. I mean, I've honestly had my air plants like soaking in water and I completely forgot about them, and it was like 3 hours later and they were completely fine. So as long as you just make sure that you have them upside down and make sure that they're fully dry before you put them back on their display, their hanger, or wherever you have them. Again, typically you kind of want to keep your air plants kind of like this or like this. Not a lot of times people hang them upside down. I have seen like the jellyfish ones that have like a seashell on top and it's like cute little jellyfish. Sure, you can hang them upside down. For air plants like this, so this guy is a little bit tricky because I actually have to tie a rubber band around him and then hang him from like my cabinets in my kitchen to make sure, because he's not gonna sit at all, and I don't want him leaning against another one. So just making sure that, like I said, I'm going to be doing more of a full air plant care video so you guys can know exactly what to do with your air plants. That will be coming out in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, I do have a blog that is already written on this on my website that I will link below, so you can check that out. So that video will literally be like almost word for word from that blog. You want to get like a little sneak peek into that video, you can go ahead and check out that blog. But like I said, it will come out in a couple of weeks. And the last tip that I have for air plants and to air plant style is to just have fun. Having fun is the best part about like displaying your air plants, because you don't pot them and you don't really kind of let them just hang wherever. You can essentially put air plants anywhere. So have fun with it, be creative, and just kind of do whatever you want. Like if you have a spot in your house that you can't have a plant, an air plant might be a good option. Some options that I like to do is I obviously have the air plant sun catcher that I hang it from. You can get a macrame plant hanger. I've seen those, like it's very small little plant hangers. It's so cute. You can put it in a little dish. Just make sure that there's no soil or anything like that in there. You can put it on like driftwood or crystals, really any container you can put them in, a terrarium. Anything, honestly guys, it is like pretty much limitless, except for copper. Don't put them in copper, but it's literally like you can do whatever you want with these air plants. So I'm going to basically show you how I style mine and kind of go into what I'm doing and my method to my madness. So let's go ahead and get these styled. Again, I'm just going to kind of show you what I'm doing, and yeah, I hope you guys all enjoy. that is it. That is how you style air plants. It is just, it gives your house just such a cute little vibe. I mean, I love air plants. They're just so easy to care for. And they're just, like, you literally can put them anywhere. Like, they're just the most underrated plant out there right now. Like, it's just, I just don't understand why more people don't have air plants. And again, I'll have a full video on how to care for air plants coming out in a couple weeks. I do have the blog written on that. And if you'd like to get an air plant sun catcher for yourself, I will link my Etsy shop below so you can check those out. Let me know in the comments if you have an air plant or if I have inspired you to get more air plants for your collection. Let me know in the comments. I'd like to talk about them. I'll also recommend air plants to you guys if you have some air plants that you've been wanting to get but you're not sure which one. And I'll also link the shop below. That's it for today. I hope you guys all have a great day and stay botanical.